Welcome back to a new episode of Mastering Programming. In today's episode, we're going to be doing something so cool and so simple, and that is creating a snake game entirely just using SwiftUI. We're not going to be using any different libraries or anything that we need to download or purchase. It's just going to be some code on SwiftUI. Now, as you can see, I already have the game set up here, so I'm going to show you how it will look like at the end of this tutorial. Now, it comes like this, and you can click restart if the game is over. And as you can see, the snake is the green dot. Now we're going to be using the arrows at the bottom to try and eat the red dot, which is the food. Now, as you can see, it's pretty simple, it's easy, but it's also a cool way of learning some code and also a cool way of impressing sort of your friends. And the best thing, if I die, it comes with a screen that says game over, and I can restart it and we are going to start again. Now, once I show you this, you'll be able to have all of this done, and that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. And at the same time, you'll be able to adjust anything because I'm going to explain it to you. So if you want to write different text, different fonts, make anything bigger, you'll be able to do so. Now, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing that I will do is I'll open Xcode, and we're going to start this project entirely from scratch. So I created it here before just so I can sort of create this demo for you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to click create new project because we're starting again from scratch. And I'm going to select app. I'm going to click on next. Here we can have a snake game. I will just put 2 because I already have a folder called snake game. And everything here is by default. The interface is SwiftUI. And again, this is none. Just take a look and make sure that everything is the same. I'm going to click on next. I'm just going to save it under my project folder. You can save it anyway. And I don't want really a Git repository, so I'm going to uncheck that. Now that we're here, we can click on create. And it will just take a few seconds, and here we are. Now I'm going to expand this so that we can have our full screen. And you realize that we've got the canvas here on the right side, and here we've got our code. Now, if we run this project at the moment, all we're going to have is just hello world. So let's do something about that. Let's change that and start working on the look of our app. Now, what I'll do is I'll go over here, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a state object. And we're going to say state object var game, and we're going to say it's equal to snake game. Now this will show an error, and that's because we haven't created a snake game yet, but we will fix that at some point. Now after that, let's start working on our view. So I'm going to go inside of here, and I'm actually going to remove the entire everything inside of the view. And maybe we can actually just leave this as a comment so that we don't get the error. And inside of here, what we want to do is we want to create a VStack. And inside of that VStack, we're going to start by saying text, and we are going to say snake game. Now, if you're not realizing already, this is basically what we're creating, the UI here. So the text snake game, that's what we're creating now. And inside of here, I'm going to say .font, and I'll say .large title. And you can see that it's already starting to look similar to this. Inside of here, I want it to be bold. And the best thing is that because I'm on an M4 Mac, it's actually automatically filling up what I need to do. But we can actually just say .bold. And then finally, I'm going to add some padding, just like this. Awesome. So now this text, this title is actually exactly the same as what we have in the demo that I showed you. So let's go ahead and continue moving forward. Now we're going to be creating a ZStack. And what a ZStack allows us to do is place different elements on top of each other. So we want to create the red box and the green box on top of this sort of black canvas that we're playing in, and that's why we're using a ZStack, because we want to place them on top of each other. VStack is vertically over each other, and then HStack is like widthwise, horizontally next to each other. So inside of the ZStack, we're going to be creating a rectangle, and you can see that it's already looking very similar to, well, this rectangle. Now, I don't want it to fill the entire screen. You can at some point, but make sure you follow this exactly the same, and then later on, have a go at changing it. And inside of here, I'm going to put a stroke. And I'll say color dot gray, and I'll say line width is equal to 4. Now what this allowed us to do is that we created our rectangle and we created a border, if you can see, gray, very similar to the gray border over here. After that, what we need to do is we need to add a frame, and inside of that frame, the width is going to be 300 and the height is going to be 400. And you can see that now the game is starting, or the UI is starting to look very similar to this box over here. Now, don't stress out if it's not showing up as black just yet, just like this. We're going to get to that in no time. Now that we created our rectangle, what we need to do is we need to create the little boxes, which is the snake and the food. So to do this, we're going to say for each, and we're going to say game dot snake body id dot self, and then over here we're going to say segment in, and inside of here, don't worry about the error that's trying so hard to show. And here we're going to create another rectangle, and this one, it will have a filling, so it will have a color of green, and it will have a frame as well, and that frame will be width of 20 and a height of 20, and then dot position, here it will simply be segment. Now, can you guess what this one is? This one is the snake itself. So if you can see, it's the green box and it's 20 by 20. Now, at some point, it's telling us here that it cannot find game in scope. And that's a very similar error like the one that we got when we were trying to get snake game, cannot find snake game in scope. And that's because we still need to create the class for this game that will allow us to use all these things. So let's actually go ahead and do that. I think this is a good point. So what I'll do is I'll right click here and I'll click on a new empty file. And inside of here, I'm going to call it snake game. And here we can start by working on our class or our model that we're going to use throughout the code. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say import foundation, and then I'll say import SwiftUI. We're going to be creating an enum, and we're going to call it direction. And this will allow us to have a different case basically for every direction, up, left, right, and down, I think. So I'll say case, and inside of here we are going to say up, we're going to say down, we're going to say left, and we're going to say right. Now, if we go back to our content view, you'll realize that we still have the error, and that's because we still didn't finish the class. So we're going to finish it all now. And I'll say class snake game. And we're going to mark it as an observable object. Inside of here, we're going to be creating 3 different published elements. So we're going to say at published. And published allows other files or other classes to be able to monitor the changes that happen to these items. So we're going to say var snake body. And inside of here, we're going to say CG point. It's basically a structure that contains a point in a 2-dimensional coordinate system. So let's say at position 2 horizontally by 4 vertically. Like this. And here we're going to say it's equal to a CG point. And then we're going to say X is equal to 140. So this is when the game first starts. We want it to be at position 140 horizontally and 200 vertically. And if I restart this game, you'll realize that it's actually exactly there. Horizontally, it's at 140, and vertically, it's in the center. So it starts off somewhere over here. Now, let's continue working on this. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to copy this. And instead of calling it snake body, this will be food position. So this is when the game first starts, where do we want the food to be? And I'm going to say 200 and 300. So every single time the game starts, it's going to start in that exact position, which is, I think, somewhere over here. Yep, somewhere over here. Amazing. Finally, we're going to create another published variable, and that will be called isGameOver. So we need to be able to track if the game finished or not, if the user crashed into something. So we're going to have this one over here, and it will be either true or false. So when the game first starts, it's naturally false, but if it crashes, it becomes true, and this becomes true. So we're going to start it off by saying it is false. After that, we can create a variable for the direction, and it will be of type direction, and it will say .right. So as soon as the game starts, we're going to use this enum here that has all these cases, and we're going to set it up to right, which is why as soon as the game starts, we're automatically moving to right. If we change this to down, then when the game starts, it will go to down. You can later on do some fancy things and have this random so that every time the game starts, it's either going to go up, down, left, right without the user knowing. After that, we definitely need a timer. So we're going to say timer. And we are going to create a function for starting the game. So we're going to say func start game. And we're going to set up isGameOver to false. And we're going to say spawn food. So this is the one that loads the food. We didn't create that function yet, so it might give us an error. And then finally, let's start our timer by saying timer is equal to timer. And we're going to say scheduled timer with time interval. So we're going to say here 0.2. And we can actually say repeat. I think we want it to repeat, so I will say true. Over here, let's open a bracket, and we're going to put in, just like this. Inside of here, we can simply say self.move snake. Again, we didn't create this function or this function, so just bear with me, and we're going to create it straight away. Before that, let's go ahead and create the function that allows us to move into different directions. So I'll say func, and I'll say change direction, and here I'll say to new direction, and we are going to take in the direction enum. And inside of here, we are going to say if is game over. So we're always checking, is the game over or not? And the reason I added this is because it allows us to check if the game is over, then there is no reason to continue. Let's just stop the snake from moving. If the game is not over, then allow the user to move the snake. Now we're going to say if direction is left and new direction is equal to .right. Now this is going to be a long line, so I'll say and direction is right, or and new direction is equal to .left. Or this one that I'm highlighting over here, this means or. So if this condition is met or this condition is met, then we have two more. So direction is equal to .up and new direction is equal to dot down. And finally, the last one is direction is equal to down, and new direction is equal to dot up. We're basically checking for the current direction, and then we're checking what the new direction is. And then based on that, we're going to be moving the direction of the snake. We're going to basically return and then we'll say direction is equal to new direction. And what we wrote here allows us to basically prevent the snake from moving into the opposite direction straight away. So if I'm going right and I click left, it shouldn't straight away just go left. You can't do that. If you're going right, you should only be able to go up and down. If you're going up, you should only be able to go left and right, basically. Here we're going to create another function, which is the move snake. So now we want to respond to the mouse clicks. So I'll say func. Func stands for function, by the way. Move snake. Oops. There we go. And we are going to say if is game over. So again, we are checking, is the game over or are we still running? If we are still running, then we will continue. We're going to say var new head is equal to snake body dot first. And now we want to be able to switch our direction. So we're going to use a switch statement, and we will say switch direction case dot up. So if we want to go up, then we want our head or the head of the snake dot y to be -30. Sorry, -20. And I think we might have to just finish all of the cases, and then it will not give us an error. If case is down, then new head dot y is equal to 20, plus or equal to 20. If case is left, then our new head dot x is equal to -20, is minus or equal to -20. If case dot right, then exactly the same thing. We're going to say new head dot x equal to 20. Amazing. I think, yeah, we no longer have the error. Now here we're going to say snake. Actually, let's give us a bit of space to work with. We can say snake body dot insert, and we're going to say new head at 0. This allows us to basically just move the head forward. We're now going to say if new head is equal to food position, then spawn food. So we still didn't create the spawn food function, but basically what we're trying to do is we're checking if the new head, so if the head of the snake is at the exact same position of the food, which means the snake ate the food, then let's spawn the food somewhere else. And let's just continue this, and then it will work. Else snake body dot remove last. If check check collision. So constantly as the game is running, we also want to check if the snake hit anything so that we can stop the game. We're going to say game over. So this is what we're creating now. We also didn't create that function yet, but check collision. So we're going to create a function now that checks if the snake collided with anything. If it did, then we're going to stop the game. Now let's go ahead and create more functions. So first of all, the one that allows us to spawn the food. So I'll say func spawn food. And here we're going to say let grid size equal to 20. Let x equal to cg float int for integer dot random 1 to 14. So now we're working on actually spawning the food in a random position times grid size. And then let's copy this, and this one will be for the y. So I'll say let y, and this one will be up to 19. Now the reason this one's 14 and this one's 19 is because if you look, it's not actually a square, it's a rectangle. So x is smaller than y, and so this one will have a smaller range or where it can spawn, while this one will have a bigger one because it needs to stretch through a bigger canvas basically. After that, we're going to say food position is equal to cg point, and here we're going to say x is equal to x and y is equal to y. And it seems like I did actually a mistake here. This is not meant to be an array, so we can remove this over here. And now that should work. Why are we still getting an error? Oh, okay. Same thing for this. I think I might have done that mistake. I'm trying to figure out why this one's wrong. There we go. Let's just remove that one. Okay, amazing. So we removed these, and now the only errors here is just because of the functions that are lacking at the moment. So let's continue moving forward. So now let's create the final function, which is check collision. So we're going to go over here and we're going to say func check collision. And we want to return a bool because we just basically want to return whether it's true or false, like have you collided, true, have you not, false. So we're going to say let head equal to snake body dot first, and we're going to say if head dot x is less than 0, or head dot x is greater than 200, and head dot y is less than 0. And finally, if head dot y is greater than 380. So basically, all I'm doing now is I want to check if we collided. And how we're going to do that, we're basically going to check if the snake's position on the xy's is less than 0 or bigger than 200, which is from here to there, or if the y is from 0 to 380, so again from here to there, the edge basically of this frame, then that means that we've collided with the border and we're dead. So we're going to return true as you would have collided. So we're going to say return true. Awesome. Now we need another if statement here. So this one we're going to say if snake body dot drop first dot contains head. So now we're checking if the snake's body contains the head. So if we collided into the snake itself in ourselves, we should also return true and stop the game like this. And finally, otherwise, if both those conditions are not met by default, let's return false. Let's say that we're not colliding by default unless these two are actually met and we have collided. Finally, let's actually create the function for ending the game, which is func game over. So we're going to say timer dot invalidate, which stops the timer from running, and we're going to say is game over is equal to true. One more function, sorry, and that is to restart the game. So we're going to say func restart game, and inside of here we're going to say snake body is equal to, and we just basically want to go back to this position over here because we're starting the game again. So I'm going to say snake body is equal to this, direction is equal to dot right, is game over. Let's change that back to false because the game is no longer over, we restarted the game. And finally, let's call our start game function to start the game. Awesome. So now we actually created all the functions needed in our model to make this game run. Look at this beautiful code. So now what we need to do is go back over here, and this should no longer be an issue, which it is not. And last time we stopped in this for each. So now you can see already we have the green one over there, the snake itself. And what we can do is now let's create another rectangle. And we're going to say dot fill. This one will be color dot red. We're going to say frame, and the width is going to be 20, while the height is also going to be 20. There we go. And now it's exactly like this, where this is the food and this is our snake. And we're also going to be adding position, and here we're going to say game dot food position, and it will automatically fetch that information over here, food position, and it will place it right over here. Now notice how our green one is not yet edited. You'll find out why in just a second. Now what I want us to do next is check if the game is over. So I'll say if game dot is game over, we're going to say VStack. So if we actually collided, I want to create that button that allows us to restart. So I'll say VStack. Inside of here, I'll put text, and I will say game over. And we are now, you might not be able to see it here just because we don't actually, the game is not over yet, so you won't be able to preview it. We're going to say font is equal to title, and we're going to say foreground style is equal to dot white. Well, basically what we're creating now is just this look over here. Dot padding dot background, and our background is going to be color dot red, just how we have it over here. And corner radius, we are just gonna make it 10, and that allows it to be that curve on the side over here. And underneath that text that says game over, what I want to create is a button. So I'll say button, I'll say action that game dot restart game, and for this one I also want to add some font, so I'll add a font of title type 2. I'll say dot bold. I'll say dot padding. And I'll say dot background color dot blue. And our foreground color is going to be dot white. Again, I'm just trying to replicate this exactly. Ooh, I forgot to add text here. There we go. This should work. Yep. All right. Cool. I got stressed out for a second. And finally, our quarter radius, which is going to be 10. Awesome. Now, over here, what I want us to do is I want us to add a background. And inside of here, we're going to say color dot black. And this will allow this to be black. But right now, it filled the entire screen, which is not something we want. So let's go ahead and add a frame to that. So we're going to say dot frame width, and let's make the width 300. And the height, let's just make it 400, which will fill this exactly. And notice how the position of the snake and the food is also still there. Amazing. Now, right after we finish this, the only thing we have left is now to create the buttons that will allow us to move the snake. So I'm going to say HStack, and we are going to create 4 buttons, starting with 1 button here. And this one, I'm just going to put this for now, but we're going to change that. And here I will say game.change direction. 2, we're simply going to be saying left. After that, let's create a VStack. And inside of here, we're going to be adding 2 different buttons. So let's just copy this. This one will be up. And we can just come here and say up. Again, let's copy this one more time. Here I'll put down. And this will say down. And then finally, one more outside of the VStack, which will be for the right one. So we can come here and say right. And you can see here that sort of the same ones that we want. Now let's go ahead and change this. Now I'm actually just gonna use emojis for this because I'm not bothered styling something. So I'm just gonna say left. What just happened? There we go. And I'll just paste it over here. So you can see that now it is left. For the up one, again, same thing. I'm going to say up. And I don't know why it does it here. Oh, there we go. For the down one, I'll simply say down. And for the right one, we are going to type right. And it's over here. Cool. Now it's very tiny compared to this. So a very quick fix to that is that outside of this entire HStack, which holds all of these, we can simply say font. And we're going to say large title. And you can see that now it's big. And we can also add padding. Just like that. Awesome. So you can see how big it is. Now, we actually want the game to start running at some point. So how to do this is we can use an onAPI, which allows us to start an action basically as soon as a specific view appears. So I'm going to place it here so that as soon as all this UI appears and is loaded, we can say dot on appear, and we can say game, dot start game. Now, believe it or not, but we actually finished. So what we can do is we can go ahead and start the game and have a look at how it runs. Oh, I didn't want to run it here. I want to run it over there. Okay, so it's loading. It doesn't seem to be a problem, but okay. So there is a problem, and that is, even though the food reloads somewhere else, we die straight away. So let's go have a look at our model and see what the issue is. Okay, so after going over the model like 1,000 times, I realized that this is meant to be 280, not 200. So now if we go ahead and run this again and have a look at our game. Okay, amazing. So it seems like now we only die if we hit this border. So let's go ahead and click restart again. Okay, so we died over here. Now let's actually play. It's actually a bit hard with like the mouse. Okay, so we picked up the food and our snake increased in size. Awesome. It's increasing, it's working. All directions are working properly. Everything is working properly. Let's go ahead and just capture that last one and then die. It works, and the restart button works as well. Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you did enjoy it. I know it was a little bit long, but look at what we did. We created a full game, and I think it was education enough, but also entertaining. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like and maybe a comment on how you would like me to improve this channel, and I hope to see you in the next episode.